Hello everyone, it's Sugar Sanera, and I am back. Of course, I was led to do this video today because I have been having some difficult conversations, with people that I know, just about life and experiences. And I said, this would be a good thing to hop on and kind of discuss. In lieu of the fact that, there's been a lot of conversation, especially when we talk about DEI and all of that stuff. And so I just wanted to give my experience as a Black nurse that lives in Florida and the things that I've experienced that has helped me shape who I am and the professional I want to be, and also the type of business owner that I want to be, and the type of leader that I want to be. So unfortunately, I got some notes this time because I just didn't want to forget anything. I was raised up north, and my grandmother always taught me to advocate for yourself, to ensure that you're treated fairly, something she instilled in me as a kid. And so when I came into the work environment, specifically healthcare, 20 years ago, of course I was ambitious. Ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a nurse. I was my grandma's caregiver. When she had both of her knees replaced at 12, I was doing her wound care. And her nurse that would, come in and see her, like, "You're doing such a good job when I'm not here." And so it was always kind of destined for me to go into healthcare because I was a sickly kid. And then I had experiences where I had to step up and give support to a family member. So I come into healthcare green, excited, and I was very quickly shown that I was different, and the world will tell you, pull yourself up, by your bootstraps, or don't look for handouts, or, you have just the same opportunity as everyone else. That's what the world tells you, right? And then you get into a work environment and you realize that it's quite the opposite. As someone who has been in healthcare for 20 years, I have never had a disciplinary action, a write-up. And if anyone can show you that, then kudos, because it's AI. That's AI, just like, and even still, I've had experiences that reminded me that I was different, and I always worked hard, handouts, assistance, I haven't had that. My kids were babies when I finished nursing school. So, I have been responsible for me and my children for their entire lives, and didn't rely on, a whole bunch of, aid from the government. Okay. So I get into this job. I'm excited. I'm a new nurse. I work hard. Like I said, no write-ups, no complaints, no family complaints, no patient complaints, because I truly believe, and my issue that I've had as of late is because I feel like I'm the only one that still believes in being good to people, empathizing with people, because it seems like people that get into healthcare now, they're not as empathetic, but some of the experience that I have had as a Black nurse in Florida, one specifically, I remember I was working at a rehab center and I was coming in for my shifts. And as I'm coming into from my shift, I noticed, that one of our patients had passed. So, I go up to the nurse and I was like, "Oh no, what happened?" So in that short moment of time, she was a Black nurse just like me. She found out in real time that a DNR is a do not resuscitate. So if we have a DNR, any healthcare professional, if they see a DNR, yellow, signed by a physician, you are not to do any resuscitation measures, right? Because that means what? You're performing your battery. You're putting your hands on someone against their will, right? So she made the assumption that someone had a DNR, and ultimately they did not. Now, I was there when I walked up to the situation and I said, "What happened?" And I let her know that, hey, that's not good, And the 3 to 11 supervisor, who was not African American, is the one that told her that someone had an order or didn't. I can't be too specific. And because of that, you know, she was fired on the spot. And she was also reported to the board of nursing. And that supervisor wound up getting promoted to ADON. I was right there when she looked at him and said, "You're the one that told me." But ultimately, as a nurse, our license is always in our hands. I don't take anybody's word. Listen, I'm from South Philly. I don't really take anybody's word anyway. But we're not supposed to take anybody's word. We're supposed to go look for ourselves. But how quickly did they report her to the board of nursing? You know, and literally I had to advocate for her and explain what happened, because even the board of nursing investigator was like trying to paint her like she was a bad nurse, and she was not, you know. And on the same coin, was told, you know, from this specific nurse, you know, she had an infraction on her license for, you know, nurses get infractions on their license for certain things. It could be drugs, it could be this, it could be that. Like I said, I can't be too specific, right? So she had an infraction where she couldn't do a certain thing because she had an infraction because of that certain thing. Y'all can read in between the lines. So she told me out of her mouth that she was using at the facility. They found out. They didn't report her to the board of nursing. Guess what they did? Oh, you need to get help. Meanwhile, giving her complete access still to those things. So, two different sides of the same coin. So that was something I experienced firsthand, and I was in shock. And she was like, "Oh yeah, you can talk to them. They'll tell you." Yeah, sure did. Like it was funny. And I was like, wow, the things you can get away with, the things you can get away with. What else do I have written on here? Oh, this experience. I've also, now, I can't fully say why this happened to me, but I worked at a place in which I was a clinical leader. And during that time, I fought. It took about 6-7 months. And within that time frame, I was able to get my office up to 5 stars with Medicare, right? So the company that I worked for was a national company. They had, you know, facilities everywhere. Now the standard for every clinical lead that's office got 5 stars with Medicare, because that's not a common thing, you know. Under my leadership, I got 5 stars with Medicare, right? Every other clinical lead got a post on the company's Facebook page. Every other clinical lead got a post in the company newsletter. Every other clinical lead got awarded with a whole meal provided to the whole office. Guess what we got? A pen in the mail and a thank you by mouth. Yeah, because I was the clinical lead. Right. All right, so here's another one. I was working at a place and the administrator was pushing me and the other clinical educator, director of quality, out into the field. Meanwhile, our role was to do all of the clinical education, and we were training people consistently. So they had us doing 2 jobs to help offset clinical issues that they had with their team. Now, mind you, they had an entire DON who did not look like us. She and her clinical supervisors got to stay in the office, and they expected us to do our job and run around in the field, seeing patients, training people, training staff, doing all this, right? And so I called to the fact that, no, we're gonna have to have a rotation, because she's a director, but so are we. You know what I'm saying? And if we have to be taken out of our role, then it's only right and fair, right? Doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that? It makes so much sense, right? That we would, you know, rotate like any other decent, logical, common sense person would do, right? No. They fought us tooth and nail. And I was called homegirl by the administrator. And I was very offended, because, you know, here I am, the one with the 5 stars. And one of my old supervisors said to me, You always say you have 5 stars. Yeah, if you got something and didn't get the praise you felt like you deserve, you're going to hear it. Because if it was that common, everybody would have one. You got one? Exactly. But yes, anyway, I have 5 stars. You know, the DO women that was working at the time did not. You see, so me and my coworker were really more versed in quality improvement and clinical education. So we could not only do our job, we also could do her job because we both were DONs. So we came from that job, you know, only to get treated like the help, you know. So that's another experience I have written down. Let's see. Oh, I was hired at a job, right? I was hired at a job to be the top clinical person at the company. And my role was to implement and roll out and improve all of the clinical programs that they had, right? So I do that, you know, I help hire my cohorts, you know, for other territories. Because when you're dealing with national companies, I've dealt with multiple, you know, and so, you know, you have different regions and different people oversee. While I was helping hire the entire staff, I was also doing my job. I was also helping with business development, helping close deals, all of that stuff, right? So I helped them, new clinical programs, all of my education. Meanwhile, the directors that worked in the office had shown no proof of any education. We would ask, hey, can we have this? Hey, can we have that? And it would never come, you know? So much so where it made me question, like, are you really qualified? Are you really degreed? You know, like if my 21-year-old daughter has more knowledge about HR and how to be empathetic to people and not say things like, you know, oh gosh, do you have to take off? You know, but they want you to be empathetic to them and their practices and their this and their that, but they're not empathetic to you, you know? So they hire me, do all this clinical improvement. I mean, show improve, right? Because they say you have to prove yourself, right? That's what they say. They say, work hard, do the right thing, have integrity, be respectful, be professional, look a certain way, talk a certain way. And if you do all of that, then maybe, just maybe we'll see you as equal. Just maybe, even though you're more qualified than everybody that works here. You know what I'm saying? Just maybe we'll treat you like an equal. Those are my experiences. So created a whole entire clinical program. Then what happens? Oh, your position is no longer needed. My position is no longer needed when I helped be intricate to every department, you know? And so I've experienced a lot, you know? I've dealt with people who have no true empathy. And as a leader, you don't talk, you know, down at people. The reason why people respect me is because anything I ask them to do, they have seen me already do it, or I will be willing to do it, get out in the trenches with them. You know, a real example, not someone who acts it, someone who is it. And maybe my disappointment in the experience I had was that I expected me from other people. And I have learned now, as a 41-year-old woman, mother, and a Black nurse, that it does not matter what you look like. It does not matter if you assimilate. It doesn't matter if you talk a certain way. It doesn't matter if you look a certain way. You will always be a threat to people who are not secure within themselves and who sees you as a threat when you are confident in who you are as a person. If I was mid, I probably would be running the world right now. But because I have goals, because I am, you know, who I am and I am what I am, that's what bothers people. And I'm okay with it, because get me out of here. You don't want me here? I don't want to be here either. You think I want to be or work for people that don't have basic level empathy? No, I don't. And hence why I started my own company in 2021, Impact Health and Quality. It's a company that I've started. And while I've been working full time, I've been, you know, building up, you know, what I want and the goals for my company and what I've been doing. But it's just very frustrating because You have non-healthcare people getting into healthcare for financial gain, you know? And it's like, we need to get back to a time where we really care about people, because ultimately, guess what? This healthcare system, we all gonna be victims to it. God willing, we live long enough to be able to get an ailment. You get what I'm saying? So if we don't fix the system now, it's gonna be broken. And my thing is this: I've also had patients tell me that they didn't want a colored nurse, or that I was pretty smart for a colored nurse. But I want you to know that I'm a very intelligent Black nurse. And guess what? I have a whole bunch of intelligent Black nurses, CRNAs, nurse practitioners that are in my family and that are friends of our family. And guess what? They're the best and the brightest. So if that offends you, then sure. And if you feel like someone's giving me a leg up, what leg up is it really once I get into a work environment and you're harassing me? Because I got not one, but 2 EEOC complaints under my belt. Exactly. So that is the world that we live in. And I just wanted to give a little insight on some of the struggles that, you know, I've endured. And I know it's because of how I look. You tell me it's not. Come in the comments right now and tell me it's not. Like I said, 0 disciplinary actions ever. Exemplary. Right. I can run circles on my worst day. Okay. I just want y'all to know who y'all know. But anyway, I said all this to say we got to do better. We got to do better. And I hope that this video has given insight on some of the things, and I can only imagine the other things that people have gone through. But I just wanted to say, you know what I mean? We got to do better. We got to do better. We got to do better. And I'm not changing. Why? Because at the end of the day, when all those situations didn't go how I thought, you know, it would go, what kept me? The fact that I maintained my integrity and who I was as a person. I've had the owner of a company couldn't even look me in the eye at Cheesecake Factory. This man couldn't even look me in my eye because everything I said came to pass. You don't treat people and think that people are replaceable. Good help is hard to find. You know what I mean? Listen to me. You should really be grateful if you have good help. Because the rest of those people gonna have y'all in the lawsuit. Mark my words. But anyway, y'all have a good one. I gotta go.